Hello and welcome back to my craft room. I've got a little crochet project for you today that I thought you might enjoy. Let me show you what I've been up to. I've been making a little box of crocheted macarons. So like calorie-free little macarons that you can use as pincushions. And I've been making this little box of them to take into work as a little goodbye present, because I'm leaving my job. I think next Tuesday is my last day, and I work in a craft shop. All of us that work there all love different kinds of arts and crafts, so I just thought it'd be nice to do little something that I've made myself. I'll probably take some real cakes in as well, but I thought it was just quite a cute idea. So I did go through a few prototypes. Here's some of them. Couldn't get them quite, I mean, they're not awful, but I just wanted them a bit, I just wanted to come up with a kind of consistent, repeatable pattern. I tend to make things up a lot as I go along with crochet, so so I wanted to make 9 to go in this little box. I found these pretty little napkins to dress up the box with. I'll have to make a bit more of an effort than this. Maybe I'll put some cellophane over the top and make up a little label or something, but I've just got one left to make, so I thought I'll just show you this last one. I've been using these little double knitting cotton balls, and I treated myself to this set a while back because it was the most economical way of buying them. You can see the colours that I've been using a lot for this. So what shall I do for my last? So to get the kind of, it shows better on some than others. When you look at a macaron, it's kind of light on the top, and then you get that where the crusty bit is, where it joins, it's a little bit darker. So I need 2 shades of the same colour, so I think I'll do another one of this kind of apricot-y colour. Okay, I'm going to go for this sort of creamy white colour as the filling, I think. So you need 3 colours of wool, 2 shades of the same colour for the main part of the macaron, and whatever you like for the filling. So that's double knitting, and I'm using a 3.5mm crochet hook. My tension tends to be fairly loose, so it might be that you might find a 4 better. I mean, the size isn't crucial. It's not like it's a garment you're going to wear or something, but it's just how you want it to be, quite nice and firm, not too loose. So you also need, ouch, ouch, ouch. You also need a large, like a tapestry needle or something for sewing up. It's not a lot of sewing up to do, and I found a needle threader handy. So let's get all of that out of the way. Oh, and a little bit of this is polyester stuffing, toy filling, but you could use, you know, if you've got scraps of fabric and stuff, you could pack it with that really. Okay, so it's quite an easy pattern. I will type the pattern out as well. I think what I might do is I'll leave a link to the Facebook page, and I'll make the pattern available on the Facebook page. If you don't do Facebook, I'll leave my email as well. Just give me an email and I can send you the pattern if you'd like it. But it's fairly easy. You might decide you don't even need the pattern written down. You can just follow it from this. Okay, so I'm going to start with, and if my fingers look dirty, they're not dirty. I opened my May scrawler box last night, and we've got these lovely kind of watercolour paints on paper, and they all came off all over my fingers, and it's kind of very highly pigmented. It's stained it all kinds of colours. My nails and my fingers look filthy, but they're not. They're very clean actually. So I'm going to take my main colour, because what we're going to do is we're going to start from here and work outwards. And this is made in 3 pieces that are then all layered together. It's very simple. Okay, I've put a sheet of white here to in the hope that that will help my camera to be able to focus on what I need it to focus on. So I'm going to start with a magic ring, and if you've never done a magic ring before, this is how you do it. For this first piece, I'm going to leave a really long, normally I'd just leave a little short tail like that. This time I'm going to leave a really long tail, because I can use this for sewing up later on, only on this very first piece. So I've got that tail coming towards me, I've got my working yarn going away. I'm going to lay the yarn over my 2 first fingers like that, bring it underneath and back around to form a cross. Now I'm going to put my hook underneath that leg of the cross, and then I'm going to grab the wool there. and bring it through. So I've got a little loop. Oh, it's still not focusing. That might be better. And now I'm going to pull the working yarn over the hook and through that loop. There we go, and that's my magic ring. Now in a minute, when I pull on the tail, that will close the ring up, but before I do that, I want to work some stitches into the ring. So usually when you start with the magic ring, the next thing the pattern will say is work so many stitches into the ring. Now I'm going to be working 6 double crochet into the ring. Bear in mind that that's UK double crochet. I believe in the States you'd call this a single crochet. So this is how I would do it. I'm going underneath the ring and I'm pulling a loop of my working yarn through like that. So I've now got 2 loops on the hook. Putting the yarn around the hook again and pulling that through both the loops. So that is my first, what I call double crochet, what Americans would call single crochet. There we go. So I'll just show you that once more. Under the loop, under the ring, pull the yarn through, 2 loops on the hook. Yarn around the hook, pull it through both loops to make my double crochet. So that's 2. I'm going to do 4 more. 1, 2, oops, 3, 4. So I've got, there we go, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double crochet into the ring. I'm just going to put my working yarn off out the way, keep hold of this fairly loosely in my right hand, and I'm just going to with my left hand pull gently on the tail, and that will close up the ring. There we go. And now I'm just going to slip stitch into the first double crochet that I did into my ring, this one. So I'm just putting my hook underneath both, oops, this is quite tricky to do when you're trying to do it at arm's length under a camera. There we go, I've put my hook under both strands of that stitch. I'm keeping my tail out the way now, and I'm working with my working yarn around the hook, and I'm going to pull it through all 3 loops just to close up that ring. So to count the stitches in the ring, so okay, so I think I'm in focus. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. Now I need to start increasing the number of stitches in order to create the circle. So for this first round I'm going to be doing 2 stitches into every stitch in the circle. So I'm going to start off just with 1 chain. There we go, just 1. I'll do that again, I didn't do that slowly, I forgot. Hang on. Okay, so I'm just going to do 1 chain, if I can ever get it to focus. Here we go, yarn around the hook and pull it through. There we are, that's my 1 chain. So now I'm going to work 2 double crochet, or single crochet in America, into each stitch on the hook, and I'm going to start off putting 2 back into the stitch where I just did that first chain. So I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to put 2 double crochet in there. So you have to wiggle it in a bit the first time. So So there we go, I've just gone into that stitch, I'm pulling yarn around the hook, pull it through, yarn around the hook again, pull it through both loops on the hook, back into the same hole, yarn around the hook, pull it through, yarn around the hook, pull it through both loops. Okay, so now I've got 2 into the 1 stitch. Okay, and now I'm going to go into this next stitch here, this hole. Going in there, oops, yarn around the hook, pull it through, yarn around the hook, pull it through both loops again. And now back into that same hole. There we go. So now I've got 4 double crochet into those first 2 stitches in the ring. So I'm going to carry on, I'm going to work my way around the ring and putting 2 stitches into each stitch in the ring. So that's the first 2 stitches. That's the 3rd stitch. And now I'm going to join the ring up again with a slip stitch into the first one I made again, just like before. So I'm going into this stitch. So I'm going to go into this stitch. And I'm just going to go under both strands, yarn around the hook and pull it through all 3 loops of the hook to close the ring. So you've got a nice little neat circle. And now there should be, let's count up the stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I've doubled the number of stitches. So I'm going to make a chain again, yarn around the hook, pull it through the loop to start my next row. Now because this is quite small, I don't worry about using a stitch marker. I just count the stitches as I go. But it might make it easier, especially if you're a beginner, to just put a little stitch marker in here so you know when you've got back to the end again. Because I go quite quickly and it's quite a small piece, I feel like I don't need to bother, I can just count them. So I've got 12. Now this time I'm not going to put 2, I'm not going to increase 1 in every single stitch around the circle. I'm going to increase in every other stitch, starting with the first one. So again, like I did before, I'm going to go back in, oops, I'm going to start there. So my first stitch is going to be made at the base of where I've just done that first chain. It's in double crochet all the way through, except where I'm saying you're doing a slip stitch or a single chain, but all the rounds are done in double crochet, or single if you're in America. So I'm going to do 2 into this first one. 1, 2. But in the next stitch, which is this one, I'm just going to do 1 double crochet. 1, there we go. And then in the next stitch I'm going to do 2. 1, 2. And I'm going to carry on in that pattern all the way around the circle. So this is number 11, 2 stitches going in here, and number 12, just 1 stitch going in there. And now I'm going to again just join by doing a slip stitch into this one, this first one that I made in this round, going under both strands, yarn round hook and pulling it through all 3 loops on the hook to make that little circle. So now there should be 18. So we've got hang on, 1, 2, 3. Let's try and do it so you can see it. It's a lot to think about when you're filming this. It's much easier to sit in front of the telly and make them quietly by yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Now, so that was round, we did the magic circle, then we did round 1, that was round 2, now we're on round 3. Again, starting with just 1 chain. And do my first stitch is going to go back into the base of where I've made that chain again. So I'm starting here. And this time I'm only going to increase every 3 stitches, but starting with the first one. So I'm going to do 2 into this first stitch. 1, 2, double crochet or single crochet in America. And now I'm doing just 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches. Missed that one. Let's try that again. There we go. So the first stitch, second stitch, third stitch. So two in the first stitch, 1 in the second stitch, 1 in the third stitch, and now I'm going to do 2 into the 4th stitch again. One in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, and then 2 in the 7th again. 1, 2. Okay, so I'm coming towards the end of this now. I'm putting 2 into that stitch, 1 into that stitch, 1 into that last stitch, and then I'm joining to the first stitch in the round with just a slip stitch by pulling the thread through all 3 loops on the hook. There we go. And now I should have 24 stitches. Let's have a count up and make sure. And you know, crochet is very forgiving. At this point, if I ended up with the wrong number of stitches, I could probably just add 1 in, or if I had too many stitches, I'd just decrease another one. It's very forgiving, and you can, you know, once you get a bit, you know, familiar with it, you know, you can make it up as you go along. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay, so for this next round, it's a little bit tricky. It's not that tricky. Once you've got the hang of it, it's pretty straightforward, really. But it's I found it quite hard to explain, so this is my 3rd attempt. So what we're starting to do here is to decrease the number of stitches and start to create the shape of the macaron top. So I'm going to start with a chain, as always. And then I'm going to do 1 normal double crochet into that first, back into the base where I've made that chain. Now, for the next one, what we need to look at is, if you see that if I call this bit, hang on, let's get my pointy thing, this bit the post of the stitch, there. So instead of going to making my, I'm going to do a double crochet again, but instead of going through here to make my double crochet, I'm going underneath the post of the previous stitch like that. and then I'm pulling my yarn through, yarn round hook again, pulling it through both loops. So it's making a double crochet again, or single crochet if you're in America, but it's doing it around the post of the previous previous row. Now for the next stitch, I'm just doing a normal double crochet into it. Then I'm doing the post thing again. So I'm not going into this hole because I've already stitched into that one. I'm going in here, onto the post and back up. So what I'm doing in effect here is these 2 stitches, instead of putting a double crochet into each of them, I'm only doing 1 across the 2 of them. So it's kind of decreasing and shaping at the same time. So for the next one, just a normal double crochet. The next one, I'm going behind the post. Next one is normal. Next one, so not in there because we've already gone into that one, in here under the post. And I quite like the texture that this creates. And the way it shapes the macaron. Okay, so I'm going to work my way round. Okay, I've ended up with 16 on in my round there. I thought it would be 18, but I've ended up with 16. But it's okay. And I'm just drawing it together with a slip stitch like I have every other time. And now I'm going to finish off this colour and start going into the darker colour. So to finish off, I just cut off my my working yarn, and I'm just going to put the yarn around and just pull it right through, and that just fastens off. So now I'm going to join a new colour. I'm just going to, while I think about it, I'm going to put my hook through the hole in the bottom there and just pull this tail that I'm going to use for sewing up with out through, because this will be the outside and I shall want it on the outside. I could do that later, but I might forget. So right, so now I'm going to join in my darker yarn, which will become the sort of crusty bit of the macaron, and I'm just going to put my hook through. Well, you could start at any of the stitches in the round actually, and then I've made a little loop. Haven't left too much of a tail, don't need too much of a tail, don't even need to sew the ends in with this because they all end up on the inside. So I've made that little loop and I'm just going to pull that through to join in my new yarn. And now leave the tail out the way, wrap the working yarn around the hook and put it through. So that's my chain that I do at the beginning of the round. And now I'm not going to do any increasing or decreasing. I'm just going to do a couple of rows of just putting a double crochet into every stitch in the round, or a single crochet if you're in America. I'm going to start with putting one back into the base of where I've made my chain. So I'm going to go in there. So I'm going to go in there. So won't bother to explain the double crochet again. I'm just going to whip round and do that. So this is a classic example of where sometimes I can't decide where to go in, or but really I just think crochet is just so forgiving. It isn't really going to matter too much. I'm going to go in there because it looks like there's a gap there and I'm just not going to worry about it. So I've got back to the beginning and I'm going to join with a slip stitch again, and then start the next row with chain as always, and do another round exactly the same with one stitch in each of the previous row, starting with one in the base of where I've just made that chain. because the chain is just the turn. It's not an actual stitch, it's just the turn. Yeah, I've gone into that last stitch and I'm just going to go in here and join them together. So now I want to start decreasing again and bringing this in. I'm going to start with a single chain to turn again, and now I'm going to do the same thing that I did here when I started decreasing, where I went into the posts, in behind the post, rather than going through there to make my stitch, I'm going to go around the post of the stitch in the previous row, but this time I'm going to do it on every stitch. So I decrease by half, so I decrease much more quickly and it will bring it in really quickly. You'll see. So I'm going to start off going into this hole back at the base of where I've just made that chain, and instead of going through there, I'm going to go under that post and up and make my stitch in the usual way. And I'm going in the next one and up. So again, for every 2 of these previous stitches, I'm only making 1, so I'm decreasing quite quickly here. So if you get confused about where to go in, you don't go in there because you've already got a stitch in that one. Skip that one, go into this one. Don't go in there, go in there and up. Okay, you're nearly done with this piece now. There we go. So that's the beginning of the row. I can see from where the step is. Like I say, you could put a stitch marker if that makes it easier for you. So this is now going to be my last post. Last post. Oops. In there, up there. And I'm just going to join back up here. Pull that through, cut off. Don't need a great long tail because I'm not going to need it. Just pull the end through to secure it. Okay, so I've ended up with this little shape here, and what I'm going to do now is take some stuffing, just a little bit at a time. All of the ends except for the one you're going to stitch up with can all go on the inside now, and it saves any kind of messing about weaving in or anything because it will just go inside and you don't see them. So I'm going to stuff it fairly firmly because it is going to be a pincushion. And like I say, instead of using this kind of stuff, if you've got a whole load of ends of threads and wool and little tiny scrappets that you've been saving, I could use my Orts jar. Stuff that reasonably full, because like I say, it's going to be a pincushion, but not so full that you ruin the shape. And then just kind of shape it in your hands a little bit. There we go. So that's the first one. I'm going to make 2 of them. And then I've got to do the middle as well. So I will do the other one of these off camera in a minute. I'll just show you how I do the middle first. And then I'll come back and show you how they all go together. It's really, really simple. So the middle, the filling. I'm going to make a magic ring again. I'm not going to leave a long tail this time because I don't need it, so just a little short tail. Drape it over my first 2 fingers like that, back underneath, back over like that to make a cross. Put the crochet hook under that arm and over that arm, pull it through, and you've made a loop. And then yarn around the hook and pull it through that loop. This bit's a little bit fiddly, and there's the magic ring. So I've got the working yarn off over there. That would be off to the left, probably rolling on the floor if I wasn't doing it here, and my tail is here, and in a minute it's the tail I'm going to pull to close up the ring. But first I'm going to do 6 double crochets into the ring again, just like I did on the first piece, or 6 single crochets if you're in the States. So put my yarn under the ring with both these strands held loosely in my left hand, yarn around the hook and pull it just through the ring. Then yarn around the hook again, pull it through both loops, through the ring, pull a loop through, yarn around hook, pull it through both loops. So that's 2 double crochets into my ring. 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's not going to like focusing on this white, is it? Here we go. I think you can see them now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And now I can gently pull on the tail to close up the ring, and then join up to that first stitch in the ring just with a slip stitch by putting the yarn around the hook and pulling it through all 3 loops like that. Just to count again, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 chain to start the round, and I'm going to start exactly the same way. I'm going to increase 1 in every stitch in the round, and I'm going to go first of all into that hole there, back at the base of where we've just made that chain. So the chain doesn't count as a stitch, it's just a turning. So I'm going in, 1, 2 into that first stitch. I'll do the same in all 6 stitches. So that was number 1, number 5, and this is the 6th stitch. Just put 2 into that, and then join up with a slip stitch at this first stitch in the round, like pulling that thread through all 3 loops. So that's round 1 done. Quick count up: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Chain to start the round again, and this time I'm going to do exactly as I did before. I'm going to increase every other stitch. So this first stitches are going to be made back into the base of this one where I've made the chain. So back into that hole, 1, and then back into the same hole, 2. The next stitch I'm just going to do 1 in there. Next stitch I'm going to do 2, 1, 2. There we go. Join them together. I should have 18 in my round now. And you can see how that's going to become the filling, but it needs to be a bit thicker. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to do a chain to turn again. I'm not going to do another row of increasing. This time I'm just going to do 1 double crochet in each stitch of the previous row. So going back in first to where going back into the base of where I've just made that chain. So I'm going back in, there's my chain, I'm going back in here, and I'm going to double crochet all the way around it. And because I'm working around a circle and I'm not increasing, it will want to just shape up like that. It won't lie completely flat, but of course that's what I want for this, because I want to create that look of a you know, the thickness of the filling. I've got a little funny blip there, but not going to worry about it because it's not going to show. So I'm just doing a double crochet in every single stitch of the previous round. I'm just come to the end now. This is where sometimes it's difficult to decide now, am I supposed to be going into that stitch, or is that the turning stitch of the previous round? If in doubt, you can count up how many you're supposed to have, or in this case, because it's really not crucial, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to join straight across to there now and not worry about it. Now I'm going to do a chain to turn, and this time, just hold this up to here, yeah, that's coming out about right. This time I'm just going to do a single crochet. So that single crochet UK. Now in America, I don't know what you call that, so I'm going to demonstrate it. That's the best way. So I'm going to go again back into the base of where I've started that first chain, so I'm going into that hole there, and instead of yarn around the hook and pulling through again, I'm just pulling it through all of the loops on the hook. So I'm going into the stitch on the previous row and yarn around hook and pulling it through all loops on the hook. Yeah, so to me this is a single crochet. Come up to the last one there, and again I could go and do one more stitch there, but I think I'm just going to join it up because I do want this to be kind of doming like that to get the shape that I'm after. So there we go. So that piece is done. I can just snip it off and pull the yarn right through and put it tight to fasten off. Wasted a bit of tail there, a bit more of a tail than I needed. So this will go on like that, and then I need another piece like this to sandwich them all together, and then I can use this tail that I left, nice long tail on that first one, that I can use to stitch them together with. So I'm going to quickly throw together another piece like that, and then I'll come back and show you the sewing up. Okay, I've got my 2 macaron pieces and my filling, and I'm going to sandwich them all together and then stitch them together with this loose tail that I left. Oh, done that the wrong way around. So I've just got a blunt ended kind of tapestry needle. Love these kind of needle threaders, they make it so much easier. My eyesight's not what it used to be. Okay, so that's all ready. I've tucked all the other ends in, they've all gone inside. I will hide these on the inside as well, so I'll just clip that off. And then I'm just going to stack everything together like this, like a sandwich. I experimented with various different ways. So with the other, I don't know what I've done. Oh, there they are, prototypes. You can see I've tried different ways of putting them together, and or perhaps crocheting them all in one. I tried crocheting them all in one go, just changing the cut, and it just didn't look as good. So I just found this was the easiest way, and in the end, you know, I can make these up quite quickly now. But then this is the 9th one. Okay, so I've sandwiched them all together, all the ends are tucked in, and I've got this loose end. So the first thing I'm going to do is wiggle my needle right the way through to the opposite side. So I've got one thread kind of anchoring them all together. Don't put it too tight because it'll make it kind of dimple in. And then I'm doing it in such a way that the thread that I'm using to stitch with will kind of follow the yarn that's in the crocheted piece, so that it won't be too obvious. And I'm wiggling that right through, and I'm aiming for a spot about here. And sometimes you just have to coax it through a little bit. So I say, just don't put it too tight here because you don't want to dimple it in. And then so for this next one, I'm going to go down there, and I'm going to aim across to here. There it goes. And then I'm going to just aim to do that all the way around. Just make sure that I've so with these, you can see I've anchored it all the way around, but I've just left this kind of a little bit separate there, so it looks a bit more realistic. There we go. So I've gone through a few times now. I think that's enough to hold it together. And I'm just bringing my thread through to the outside and just snipping it off. So if you just put it a little bit tight and snip it off and let it go, it will spring back in. And then I find it helps just to kind of just shape it a little bit in your hands, just to make it look more macaroni, and just firm it up a little bit. There we go, that's done. And if I was just giving this, you know, giving one to someone as a gift, I'd probably just put 2-3 pins in it like that, just to show what it's meant to be. But for these ones, I shall arrange them all nicely in the box, I think. Yeah, so that'll probably go. That'll tuck in there. Make a nice label. Maybe put a bit of cellophane over, just as it's a shame I haven't got a little bakery box or something. There we go. Cute, eh? I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you have a go. Don't forget, you know, if you make that or any other projects you'd like to share, you can put them on the Facebook page, the Arty Farty Annie Facebook page. I'll leave a link to it in the description box. You have to click on the community tab at the top. I did check, you can on my phone you just click community. When I'm looking on my laptop, I have to click more, and then the drop down has community in it, and if you go there you can see all the posts that people other than myself have put on the page. If you can't work out how to post your photos on the page, you can message me via the page, send me the photos that way, and I'll post them for you. Because yeah, I just think it's a nice way to share, so we can all share what we're making, and it's always nice to see. I mean, especially if you make something that I've shown you, I get especially excited, but actually I love to see anything that you're making and doing. It's always inspiring to see what other people create, isn't it? So hopefully see you there, and Thanks again for joining me today, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye.